Hello, welcome to Balanced Act. So this week, don't have much to really talk about this week, other than I wanted to talk about a few books that I've been listening to and reading recently that I thought were very helpful. I wanted to recommend. First one, of course, being David Goggins' new book, Never Finished. This is an extreme book, as the other one was. But his practices in here are a little bit more pointed, a little bit more concise, I think, than the first book. And I've really been enjoying contrasting the things that he has versus what other spiritual teachers teach. David Goggins is by no means a spiritual teacher. I consider him one of my modern day Stoics. He is a very practical teacher. He's been my example throughout this podcast as an extreme example of a more practical teacher, because he is quite extreme, but also effective. I think if you were to actually do everything that he says and can't hurt me, you would see results in your life. Not saying that you won't put yourself through hell getting there, but you would see results in your life. I truly do believe this about David Goggins' teachings. That said, his new book, Never Finished, I'm still listening to it right now. But where I'm at now, he talks about something very interesting. He talks about heart zones and working out. Something I was familiar with I learned a few years ago. You know, heart zones is like level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depends on your beats per minute. And it also kind of depends on what you can do within that heart zone. So like zone 1, zone 2, you can kind of just work out all day in nice steady pace. Zone 3 is a little bit harder, a little bit more, and then zone 4 and 5 are like extreme zones, and those are like the zones where you're working out super hard, going super hard, and you probably can't go that hard but more than a couple of minutes, like sprinting or something of that nature. So he talks about those, the heart zones. And what he said is that he created an idea based on that called mental zones. So with mental zones, you basically do the same thing. So, but instead of looking at it, at your heart rate, you look at it as your mental stress. Like how much mental stress are you experiencing when you're doing this one activity? So maybe if you're sitting at home watching TV, that's a zone 1, obviously. Maybe you go out and you're driving and it's a nice day, it's a weekend, maybe it's a zone 2. There's no traffic really, that kind of thing. Going up to zone 3, maybe it's an average day at work. Zone 4 and 5 is like extreme stressful situations that you're going to have to deal with, but that's going to shoot your stress levels way up here. So that's zone 4 and 5. So he teaches how to deal with that by preparing for it in advance. Now, I just thought this was so amazing because I contrasted this to what Abraham Hicks teaches about getting out ahead of it. So what he talks about is, okay, so you're in zone 4 and 5. Rather, he says he has what he calls his morning meeting, okay, which is his morning routine, his morning ritual. So he has a morning meeting with himself, right? So he basically talks to himself and he's like, okay, David, what things are we gonna go through today? And what mental zone are we gonna be put in when we go through that? So let's say maybe he has to deal with a stressful situation. He has to go into an interview with someone he's never been interviewed by, maybe doesn't agree with that person or whatever. So now he's gonna go into this interview, and that might be a level 4 or 5 for him, right? So he'll know that going in. Say, okay, so this situation here, it might be a level 4 or 5 mental zone for me. So he prepares himself for it. So then as he goes into that, he'll approach it actually as a level 1 or 2 or 3 situation. So he'll mentally prepare for the situation that would normally bring him up to a 4 or 5, but he'll make sure that doesn't bring him up past a 1, 2, or 3. It's getting out ahead of it that Abraham Hicks teaches. It's the same exact concept, but treated from a more practical scientific standpoint, which is from David Goggins observing his own heart rate and relating that to mental state. Okay? So what Abraham Hicks teaches to contrast this is she teaches the same thing. Wake up in the morning and have a conversation with yourself. Before all your thoughts, all your negative thoughts come in and all your negative feelings come in, it's a good opportunity to stop that. So, okay, so I'm going to go to work today and I don't like my job. So that's okay. I can go to my job. This is what Abraham Hicks teaches. I can go to my job. I can do this. It's okay. I can do my job. No problem. It's not where I want to be working right now, but that's okay. It's a nice place to work right now. I can afford my bills working at this place and, that kind of thing. And I know when I come home, I'm going to, job search for someplace else. And I could have fun while I'm there, right? I'm allowed to have fun, aren't I? So, this is what she teaches. And I think it's amazing how these teachers are teaching the same thing, but just with different attitudes. It's one thing I'm starting to learn now is the difference between practical and spiritual teachers. I think it's attitude, honestly, more or less. It's the attitude towards the thing you're doing. And maybe where you're thinking, where everything is coming from. So practical teachers obviously tend to stay very grounded in the five senses. Can I see it? Can I smell it? Can I taste it? Can I touch it? Can I hear it? That kind of thing. Then I'll believe it. That kind of thing. Can science prove it? Can I show somebody else this thing and they can see it too? So it's very grounded in that way. And we look at more spiritual teachers, they basically are attributing it to higher forces that we can't see. Whether it's God, whether it's a source, whatever you want to call it, angels, ancestors, they're attributing it to beings either within us, like a larger being within us, or beings on the outside of us that are basically a part of our lives, guiding us, holding us, loving us, and showing us. Now, that's a matter of personal belief, personal faith. You can't really prove it to someone else. Like somebody else might have a similar experience to you, but is that experience really coming from God or source, energy, as we like to call it? So that's a matter of personal belief. So it's really where you're coming from in your belief, but it's all the same. And it's all about one thing, feeling better. It's all about feeling better. If you could decide for yourself today that you're going to start to feel better, then the world's going to open up to you and you will start to find things no matter where the source of this information you believe is coming from. You will start to find things that will open you up and start to benefit you towards that purpose. Because like Abraham Hicks says, everything that we want it in the belief that we will feel better in the having of it. And that's what all of these teachers are teaching you. They're teaching you how to basically feel better. I'm reading a book now. My next book I'm reading now is just finished up one of Deepak Chopra's books. So the next book I'm reading is a book by Marianne DeMarco. It's called Medium Mentor. I'm actually reading it because I'm a big Gabby Bernstein fan, and she's a friend of Gabby Bernstein's. So I read it, but it is exactly what it says it is. It's basically teaching her to be a medium. I really have no interest in being a medium or a psychic, but there's a lot of good self-help information in this book. It's essentially a self-help book for people who believe they're mediums or psychics. But the information in there is very sound. And there's some great meditations in there too that I love. So I'm going to continue reading this book. But the stuff that she's teaching, it just echoes the same information. And really, what all these teachers are saying is the same thing. Just decide to feel good and decide on the things you're going to do daily towards that goal. And you don't have to wait to feel good. Now, there's another side to that too. As Jay Shetty said, and as I said in an earlier podcast, success and happiness are two different roads, So earning success doesn't equal happiness. Earning happiness doesn't mean you'll have success. And I personally believe that you should have happiness before success. So that's what this is all about. It's all about just being happy. And once you're happy, then you can start to see what you want to do, why you want to do it. And you want to always be happy. You want to have those moments. But, as everyone does teach, those moments can benefit you because the simplest way for me to look at it is that it's showing you what you don't want so you can know what you do want. It's contrast. So like, you know what dark is because you've seen the light. You know what light is because you experienced darkness. You know what wet is because you've been dry. You know what dryness is because you experienced being wet. Contrast, okay? So you know what you don't like, so now you know what you do want, okay? You experience things that you liked. Now it's your choice to make the decision to focus on that. So yes, I definitely do recommend David Goggins' book. Also, my mother had me start listening to Tyler Perry, one of Tyler Perry's books. I can't remember the name of it, High or something. I just started listening to that today. So I'll let you know more about that one as time goes along. It's going to be difficult for me to recommend Marianne DeMarco's book because her book, like I said, is really meant for mediums. But if you like Gavin Bernstein at all, you might want to listen to it. But you may want to sample it first on Amazon. Just saying. But yeah. So in conclusion, find the best way for you to be happy now. And as you take that daily practice, whatever it is, meditation, morning meeting, as David Goggins said, whatever it is, prayer, a run. You know, I have my morning routine. I call it my morning route because my morning route to happiness. Every morning I meditate for 20 minutes. Then I spend 5 minutes reading, 5 minutes writing at the least, and 5 minutes doing some sort of exercise. Usually I just take a walk, and then 5 minutes in appreciation. And I start every morning this way, and I'm starting a nightly practice of cleansing with smoke basically in my house. I usually use incense, and this is something I picked up from Marianne DeMarco's book. So it's just a ritual, really, just to basically, you don't need to do anything, but basically it's just like a prayer to yourself and prayer to God to support you and let them know you're acknowledging them, your spirit guides or the angels, your guardian angels, and so forth. If you believe in that kind of thing. I tend to be a little bit more on the spiritual side of things, but it's important to balance that with the practical. So may you find your balance between the practical and the metaphysical towards your balanced path to your own wellness and happiness. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Thank you for joining me again. I love you.